Hey everybody, it's Saturday, June 19th, 2021. Thank you very much for joining me. Bulls and Bears, we've got a lot of big danger in front of us. And you may not think so, you may not see it, but things can look pretty good up until the moment hits. And we do see a lot of signs out there, a lot of warning signs. And a lot of them we've been warning about for years. So today we're going to talk about the dire food situation with the farms and the mega drought. We're also going to talk about the markets a little bit because in order to get by in this inflationary system, most people, anyways, need to have some sort of investments. Unless you bought a long time ago and everything's paid off and you're completely debt free. A lot of baby boomers are in a pretty good position right now. They bought back when homes were more easily able to be paid off, let's call it. But anyone now just getting out of school or college, facing career choices against this inflation system, it's a lot of problems. And that's why you see, what is it, over 40 million people now with student loan debt. And many of these people, sadly, will never get a job that's good enough to pay off the debt. They'll be in debt for life. We've talked about that here many times, how even senior citizens, a lot of them have student loan debt now going into their final years in their nursing home in some cases. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. The price rises, the inflation, and now we add on top of this the shortages, which are part of the inflation picture. When you hand out money to millions, tens of millions, hundreds of million people that don't work, and you have people that spend money but actually are not producing anything in the economy, naturally you're going to see rising prices. Right? One of the comparisons that I've given here, or analogies that I've given, is you have one cook in a restaurant with 1,000 customers waiting for food. So you're going to have to severely raise your prices on food to try to put some balance back into this. And what we're seeing here is just rising prices everywhere. The US, we've lost most of our manufacturing many decades ago. There's still a few items that are being manufactured here, but even those items are not being manufactured like they should be. Let's talk about cars with the chip shortage. There are still some factories here, some automotive manufacturing facilities, Ford and others that manufacture here, but now we have shortages further hurting the supply side. And let's talk about food and farmers here. We're also going to talk about the markets. Quick shot here out of CNN. This is Lake Mead. We are at the lowest level since the 1930s. And if we look to the left here, this is from Google Earth. We see the year 2000. And to the right, they're saying that's the most recent here, late 2020. Now, Lake Mead is a Colorado River reservoir just east of Las Vegas, and it's on the Arizona-Nevada border, and it's poised to become the focal point of the country's most significant climate crisis, water shortages. And millions of people are going to be affected. There's already water rationing happening in some areas. Many people actually still don't know that California is the #1 agricultural state in the country, and a lot of these farmers rely on this water. And it's not just rain that can keep these farmers from collapsing. It has to be piped in. Now, when it rains in California, sometimes it rains pretty hard in the months of November, December, January, February. We can get some pretty good rain. And if people here in the United States knew how to save water and preserve water, then you wouldn't see this type of problem. But nobody really talks about that. I think the water companies, they probably want people more reliant on having to buy water versus being able to save their own water. And I think the utility companies and the water company also wants people reliant on them. That way they can continually raise prices. And yes, in a lot of places, you have to pay for water. So if you're on a piece of land and you have your own well or your own source of water, consider yourself very lucky, or maybe you were just very smart to move to that spot. Lake Mead is around 143 feet below being full. That's a deficit roughly the height of the Statue of Liberty. Think about that. The height of the Statue of Liberty is how low Lake Mead is right now. And you can see in this photo here the bathtub ring where the water level used to be. 25 million people rely on Lake Mead water. All right, people, so continue to prepare, even if you're not out west here and reliant on this water. continue to prepare all around, not just water, but I do encourage people to try to be as self-sufficient as possible. Get your own water filtration system. That way you can collect water if you have to. I'm not giving advice here because someone can get sick and say it's my fault, but learn how to be self-sufficient. There are ways to filter your own water, to save water. There are ways to grow your own food. If you can't grow your own food, stock up on canned goods because this farm situation with the drought is only going to make food more scarce, and we're already reliant on a lot of import here in this country. But what's going to happen when other countries also are starting to feel the effect of this drought? Farms on the decline, population is still growing, so you have more people, less farms, that equals less food. It's not good numbers, not good numbers at all. So we need to continue to prepare. Things are going to get more dangerous as far as crime. The more people slip into poverty, and we're going to see more and more people get desperate, and you need to be able to protect yourself, protect your assets, protect your family. All right, so let me know what you think about this. Some pretty scary looking photos in my opinion. Let's wrap this up right here. We're going to talk about the markets. Now, why do we jump from talking about food, talking about the water crisis to markets? Well, a lot of people with this inflation environment have to invest in order to sustain just regular necessities, keeping a roof over our head, keeping our families fed, keeping ourselves fed. And I continue to look for opportunities. There's assets that you can buy, especially when the dip happens. And we know that it's just going to be inflation. The Fed's going to be there to back up the markets. Essentially, the Fed is backed into a corner. They're forced to keep printing money because so many people now are aware that this is how it's done. How the markets are propped up is via never-ending money creation, money printed out of thin air. Yes, the Fed, they buy corporate debt, they buy securities from the banks, so banks can continue to lend money into infinity without any risk of loan defaults. And when prices go up nonstop, then there's very little risk of loan defaults because even if somebody gets behind on, let's say, their mortgage, for example, they can turn around and sell the home for, in most cases, a lot more than they paid for it, so they can pay off the debt plus have a little bit of extra on top. So when prices are rising, it gives people a way out. And that's why we think here it's going to be inflation nonstop. The Fed is forced to. And if the Fed stops buying all the debt, if the Fed raises interest rates, then they will be blamed for the market downturn because it'll be very obvious, right? So we don't think they're going to stop unless something is going to be forcing them to stop, like a blackout or something like that. But take a look at the markets. They're in the red. I expect this not to be the beginning of anything big, any big sell-off. There are people out there calling for a crash. And who knows, maybe something will come out to stop all this money printing and the Fed buying everything. We'll have to see. But unless something comes out, something that really nobody talks about or nobody knows about, right, some surprise, what we call a black swan event, then we see more and more inflation and continuing to buy the dip here on my end. If everybody's good, stay well, have a good weekend. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Thanks for being here, everybody. Bye for now. Peace.